It's okay. They'll get the drawing part. Yeah, I've been sending these videos to Stacy when she's not here. All right, here we go. I'm gonna zoom in, and then we are going to we're gonna practice some mark making. Look at that guy's eyes. So I guess if you were to ask what direction he's looking, I think he's looking over here at my pencil. So I'm like, if I move it over here, he's not looking at it. If I move it over here, yeah, something like that. So this eye is looking down to the left. This eye is looking not quite as hard. Dude, super funky. And then I just have to make sure that I'm straight onto this thing. So again, in the spirit of the zoom, I'm like forced to, I'm kind of forced to, what was I gonna say? Yeah, it's not, I just have to zoom out a little bit. All right, there we go. Oh man, is anybody scared? I'm a little bit scared. I think we can do it. All right, so I'm gonna do, watch how I do this. So I'm going to attempt to find the trapezoid. So when I say trapezoid, let me see, I've got enough down here. Okay, so the trapezoid is going to be the front of the keystone, and it's this part. See this little light shape? So this is the front of the start of the nose, and then you get a little bit of the inside of the socket. And I know this is the hard part about what we're doing right now. This is the hardest part that's happening first. It's annoying, but there's a series of straight lines along the top of that trapezoid, that white trapezoid, and then there's going into the corner of the heading in towards the tear duct on this side. It gets a little bit darker, and then we're gonna jump a little gap, and then we're gonna get the start of the eyelid. Whew. It's almost like an hourglass. So he actually doesn't do the tear duct. He just does the start of the upper eyelid, and then he does the start of the lower eyelid. Wowzers, wowzers. Okay, now, so the sooner we can get an eye, I think the better. So just check out this. I made 3 clusters of lines, a cluster of lines on the left of the eye socket. Then I did a cluster of lines above the clear triangle, the white triangle, and then I'm doing a series of dark marks on the side. And I'm overdoing them just so you can see them. So there's one on the left, one on the top, one on the bottom, and then we jump over this little light gap in here, and then we're going to get the beginning of the upper eyelid, and then the beginning of the lower eyelid. And it's okay to like call it what it is. I mean, it's like an almond shape. There's these things that you can kind of get sometimes as a teacher. I kind of get mad because people draw eyes like footballs or whatever, and it's like, sometimes it is kind of like a football, with the upper eyelid and then the pupil and the iris. So it's not that bad to think of upper eyelid, lower eyelid, tear duct, and then we'll do the iris and the pupil. And it's just a matter of where the eyelids crop the pupil and the iris. So this guy's eyes, I wouldn't call them squinty, but the lower eyelid crops the bottom, and the upper eyelid crops the top of the eye. So I'm beginning to go over into this almond shape, and when I put that in there, the side of the lower eyelid here goes underneath the upper eyelid. Kind of interesting. And so know that all of these lines that I just made, you might have to erase them. That's going to go with all of the marks that we make. I'm not going to erase very much. At least I'm going to try not to. But you might need to. I'm looking at the opening of the eye. So there's the upper eyelid, and then there's the lower eyelid, and then I have to look at the clear triangles to the left of the iris. The iris is the colored part, the striped part, and then the sclera, the white of the eye, to the right. So there's a triangle created on the left side of the eye and the right side of the eye. It's amazing. Like the theme that might happen is like not necessarily where we're putting marks, but actually where we're not putting any marks. So here we go. We had that start of the upper eyelid, lower eyelid. I'm going to do the side of the iris here. And then I can do the side of the iris on the other side. And I'm not drawing the top because the eyelid defines the top and the bottom. We've got to get a pupil in there. Most people would draw a circle. Van Gogh is drawing with straight lines, so he doesn't do a circle, almost obnoxiously. And then in order to color the iris, he does the left side, the bottom, the right side, and I can't tell if he does the top. Let's figure that out. So there's a couple stripes on the left, a couple stripes on the bottom, a couple stripes on the right. When you think about drawing eyes, I often do the radiating lines for the iris. That come out. He didn't. He built it almost like a block. Left side stripes, right bottom, left, and then the pupil was in the middle. It's weird, guys. This guy's weird. He's weird. Very little eyelashes to speak of, but he does give a couple extra marks on this upper eyelid. So maybe that extra line along the top of that eyelid was supposed to function like eyelashes. I don't know. Maybe it's just darkness. All right. So there's the opening of that eye, which is fantastic. So the eyelids themselves have a thickness to them, and they're basically a sheath to cover up the eyeball. I mean, the eyeball's stuck inside the socket, and it needs like covering. So when you close your eye, the skin covers the eyeball, protecting it, and then distributing moisture on it. So the eyelid on the top, the upper eyelid is mobile, so it goes up and down. The eyelid on the bottom isn't really mobile. It just kind of stays. It kind of stays put. Let's do that lower eyelid first. Going back to where you don't put marks, the lower eyelid is an example of a plane that angles up. It's and it's kind of light. If there were eyelashes, they would come on the outside of this lower eyelid. And I may like grow to regret the fact that I made those eyelashes, but I actually doubt it. If you look at your own eye, there's a point where the eyelid touches the eyeball. That was the first line that we made. Then your eyelid is thick, and there's a little shelf on there. And if you begin crying, the moisture collects on that lower eyelid, and it's not until you close your eye that it squirts out that the droplet of tear. So you can, if you don't blink and you start crying, you don't blink, you can kind of wait it out sometimes and not cry. We're just going to define this lower eyelid because you want to think about the lower eyelid is like almost like a cup, like a hand that's like holding onto a bowl. The round part of the bowl is the eyeball, and like you're holding the bottom of the bowl. So these marks right here are like the bottom of the bowl. And what I love about Van Gogh and this style is that everybody can make straight lines, and it's hard to learn how to use straight lines when you're thinking about drawing, because a lot of times you want to use curves so much. So like by studying Van Gogh, he like forces you to think in terms of straight lines almost all the time. And so you get practice making angles and making like correct angles. So watch this. When we do this upper eyelid, the upper eyelid that it's way bigger than the lower eyelid because it's movable and it stretches. So I'm going to go up on this side. I'm going to come across the front, and I'm going to go down the side of that eyelid. And then because he's older, typically like your skin becomes a little looser, a little thinner, and then anyway, this is his socket, his the bone of his eye socket. So this is where the first, other than the pupil, the line for this eyelid where it folds underneath that eye socket, that's kind of like the first place where it goes really dark. Of course, you could argue maybe in the iris or something, but I'm like kind of intentionally laying down a degree of darkness in my line that's more than I've ever gone so far in the drawing. Cool. And the reason I started so low, I was actually going to start a little bit higher on the page, but we built what is the beginnings of the keystone. So the keystone is this, the sides, the top, and this, the blank area. So watch what happens with this eyebrow. And this happens with everybody's eyebrow. If you look at like where your unibrow is, like where, not your nose, which is the top, and not your forehead, the space between your eyes, the bone where actually hair grows. I mean, it's like the one eyebrow would go and form and attach into the other eyebrow. Your eyebrow ridge is bone structure. So what Van Gogh does here is he defines the upper part of the brow ridge by not doing marks. And I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to come outside here, and from the corner of the eye to where I started putting in the side of the temples, this is the beginning of bone structure. And you can actually touch it yourself. Don't poke your eye, but like you can feel the brow. And this is like the helmet for your eye. You can almost think about your eyebrow ridge more like a women's lacrosse mask. They have like goggles, and they put the bars in front of the eyes. But like if you look at the structure of your forehead from your cheekbone to your brow ridge, it does that already. A direct hit to the front is still going to get your eyes, but at least your eyes are a little bit a little bit squishy. But if I try to hit my eye even with my pencil, I'm not going to do it, because the pencil hits my cheekbone, and then it hits my brow ridge. I poke myself in the eye, it's not going to be any good. But the broad attacks, flat beam attacks, it'll protect your eye. So watch this. I'm going to do my first construction line, and you just have to bear with me here, and I will erase these lines, but I'm going to come up, and what I'm defining here is this brow ridge. And the way that he defines the brow ridge is by the eyebrows themselves, the hair that is on that bone structure. So I call it the sausage, because it kind of looks like a breakfast sausage. See the light area on here? It looks like a juicy breakfast sausage. And then in the middle of that, if there were no eyebrows, I saw a meme of some dude that was like shaving his eyebrows. I was like, what is going on? There's something so strange about a human. The most strange, the oddest thing about humans, when they like, if people have cancer and like they lose all of their hair, like all their hair falls out, their eyebrows fall out too. And the thing that is like most, the part that you notice that like is unnerving is not having eyebrow hair. It's like one of these things that like if you forget to put in the eyebrows in your drawing, it becomes very strange. There's also an artist named Amanda Palmer. She was the lead singer of the Dresden Dolls. Her kind of fashion, her like kind of angsty makeup routine was to like use mascara for her eyebrows. She would actually shave the hair on her eyebrows and then paint on the brows. But like before she put that makeup on, you look at the face and you're like, they almost don't look human. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Yeah, so when my phone gets close to it, okay, where are, okay. Oh, that's my car. Okay. In the storm yesterday, my windshield, my the driver's side window broke halfway down in the middle of the storm yesterday. So I had like an umbrella sticking out of the car. This is me at the grocery store. Van Gogh, Van Gogh, Van Gogh. That was my car yesterday. It did not get wet, but it looked very awkward. And obviously I couldn't drive like that. So when it was parked, it was fine. But then when I drove, there was just like water pouring into the side of the car. It's all fixed. $800 later. All right, so this sausage, this hypothetical sausage, here we go. I'm going to make it into a more obvious sausage so you guys believe me. There's the breakfast sausage structure. And he really builds the form around it. There's some, there's some shadow above it. We're not, we'll get there, but not just yet. We're not kind of going into that part of the anatomy. And then he makes these, he makes the eyebrow hair in some clusters. The hair on the top is darker. And it looks like these, the clusters of the hair happening in like 3 groups: left, middle, and right. Oh my gosh, okay. And that sausage comes up and back around, and it leads us back into the keystone. So the goal, not the goal, but one of the strategies on how to get symmetry in eyes is to now go through the exact same process on the left side. Now, Van Gogh, I don't think was going for exact symmetry, so it's kind of interesting to for us to go through this process again, because there's going to be like epic distortion. But if you did if you sketched all the parts that I was talking about, then we should be able to find all of those, because it was by the same person looking for the same stuff. All right, so I'm going back to my original keystone. I've got the side of the eye socket, and then I'm going to make this like long jump almost to the beginning of this long channel. And then it's so bizarre. I can't believe he like doesn't put in the tear duct, because he uses the tear duct. It's not like Van Gogh like consistently leaves out the tear duct. Like he doesn't really leave it out. But in this case, it seems like he does. At least he doesn't like quite acknowledge it. So then this left eye seems a lot smaller to me. So I'm going to do the lower eyelid where it touches the eyeball. It's a little bottom curve. And then, classic Van Gogh, when the upper eyelid, it goes up, across, and then down. And the the upper eyelid here is very thick. He's using like a set of 3 lines defining the either like the eyelashes or what. I'm not exactly sure. This eye is looking hard to the left, so the shape of the sclera on the right is bigger, and then the shape of the sclera on the left is almost invisible, but you can see it. But it's the edge of the iris and then the corner of the eye. They go right into one another, like really, really close. I'm going to use this little oval shape for the pupil, marks for the side of the iris, ticks for the bottom of the iris, and then some horizontals for the left side of the iris. You can Google you can Google image this. This is like one of his most popular drawings, and you can get like HD things and zoom in really far. This image is pretty good, but I don't know. It's good practice, making marks and then almost having the discipline to not blend. I mean, when I'm teaching, I teach a lot of blending, and I love blending. It saves a lot of time. But there's something to be said about painting, making decisive brushstrokes and not necessarily blending right off the bat when you're painting. And this type of mark making anticipates the type of painting which is like a good habit, like good practice. It's like loading the brush, firing, loading the brush, firing. And so in a way, the way that he would paint with his pictures, with those really decisive brush strokes and not really manipulating the paint too much after it was applied, this method of drawing, works really effectively with that way of thinking. All right, pupil. All right, let's get the lower eyelid, and we're gonna make sure we have enough space in there so that the lower eyelid appears to be light, because there's no marks there. And then we can kind of shade the lower eyelid. Cool. You know, there's a couple marks almost showing like the bottom of the eye socket. There's actually some stippling happening underneath that eye too. And that's the first time we've seen stippling. Now the stippling might represent shadow, but we'll think about that. It looks almost, you see the kind of the crescent moon around the eye socket? If I drop it down even more, there's this side of the face has some stippling, but I don't want to get too far into that. All right, so we've got the upper eyelid, we've got the lower eyelid, we've got the pupil, we've got the right side of the iris, which is allowed to go dark with your mark, the left side of the iris, which is allowed to go dark with the mark. Kind of the thickness of that upper, you know, the you know the eyelashes of the upper eyelid. Now we need to get the thickness of the upper eyelid. Then you can come up this side, and then you can come across at that crease, and then we can come back down. And that back down is going to kind of lead us back into the socket. Above this little trapezoidal fold that's above the eye is where we're going to get a super funky breakfast sausage. So watch when I sketch in my breakfast sausage. It comes all the way up. Look how high. This is the fold right here. Fold, and then the hair for the eyebrow is up really high in the head. And then it comes back down in. This whole form up here is going to lead us back into the keystone, which is this first set of marks that we made. Man, this is like, hopefully this isn't too much. Van Gogh is like, he's always such a fun time, but he just breaks all the rules. Just does not care. If you look at the way the eyebrow is constructed, we did the eyelashes, which was up, across, and down. And then we did the fold above that eye, which was up and then across and then down. And then if you look at the hair on the eyebrow, it goes up and then it goes across and then it goes back down. Super interesting. I don't know what is going on the inside of, from this fold to where the eyebrow is. There's like this little like waterfall of mark making. It kind of happens on this side too, I guess. There's another cluster up there. When you're making drawings, I mean, my favorite thing about drawings is to name stuff and say, this is the bridge of the nose, this is the iris, this is the pupil, this is the eyebrow. Sometimes when artists like Van Gogh's doing is like almost making like non-anatomical changes, I think it makes it really hard. But and also you can just rely, I mean, the marks are there, so it's not like you can't just copy the marks. I just like to have both things in my head at the same time. Like, I can make the mark, I know how long it is, I know how dark it is, I know where it's positioned, and I'd like to know that the mark I'm making is in fact an eyebrow, and if it's not, like, did this guy get stung by a bee and he has this like swelling by his eye? Like, what is that about? Like, what's the story? The eyebrow ridge, seems like there's horizontal marks that's coming off of this end.
That could be a part of his eyebrow.
What's that?
That could be a part of his eyebrow. A little.
It could just be the nature of his eyebrow. Yeah. I mean, like, if you look at the round part here and the round part there, I mean, he could just have like strong and like meaty, like a meaty brow. Yeah, it makes him look, I don't want to say sinister, but it's more of like an inquisitive look. Like the brow is kind of flexed, And he's like, like he's not quite sure of what's happening. And the portrait is sketched over the course of like, a couple hours. So when he's making the drawing, the guy he could do the eye looking one way, and then 20 minutes later, he might be making like a different expression. I mean, obviously, he was looking around the room, and that might be, by making one eye in one position, the other eye in another position, he might have been looking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And to record that is to record kind of like a passage of time, which is really helpful. All right, I'm going to drop instead of going into the I'm going to do one extra thing here on the eyes, and this is just going to set us up so once we get down to the chin, we're going to be able to come back up the side and link it back up. So we're not going to do the ear per se, but I do want to get all the way out to the cheekbones, and we'll do the cheekbones on either side. So without really moving my paper too much, we're going to come out from the sausage here, from the brow ridge, come over, and then we get kind of the start of the sideburns. And then, believe it or not, there's an ear that comes up, and the ear comes up this side, and it curls around, and that's the helix. So this is the ear, and it's foreshortened because the ear is seen from the side. I mean, it's like the ear is on the side of the head, and we're looking at it from the front. So it's actually a little bit awkward. Um, I've been realizing as an adult that that Lautrec was really not good at ears. Incredible at hands, horrible at ears. So let me do the let me show you what's happening with Van Gogh's ear here. And I'll draw an ear regular so you guys can see it. And he is really good. Not everybody has like matured enough to be able to handle an ear. So when you see an ear from the side, I usually look for the tragus. Oops, why did I just start it there? I start for the tragus. A lot of times people get the tragus pierced, and then you get the helix. This is like the rolling part. This is an ear actually seen from the side. So you get the helix, rounds up, and then that turns down into the ear lobe. And then this is where you get your ear, pierced from the side. So the tragus goes here, and then I like to go from the tragus into the helix because the helix is like one of the most defining elements of the ear that everybody can kind of see. Sometimes it's pointy, sometimes it's triangular, but most of the time it's round like this. And it creates kind of like that shell almost, and then that transitions smoothly into the ear lobe. The tragus offers up the next form, which is called the antitragus. And the antitragus is kind of like separates the earlobe from the kind of the twisty inside, and down here in this is the ear canal. So this right here is the Q-tip. So there's a Q-tip going inside that ear. And that's just beyond the tragus and the antitragus. Now, the helix is the kind of the word and the term for the form that everyone's familiar with. The anti-helix is the part that everyone gets confused. And once I show you how it's done, you really should never get confused again. There's a ripple inside the ear, and I need you to be able to draw the letter Y. But it's not going to be a stick letter Y. It's going to be a an actual thick letter Y. See how I'm drawing the letter Y there? And it's got, it's like a bubble letter Y. So the Y and the bubble letter Y is more curvy like this. So I'm going from stick letter Y to block letter Y to bubble letter Y. And this is the Y that goes inside the anti-helix. So you find the Y here, and it comes down. And usually it's kind of shaded. The bubble letter Y is rounded, it's cylindrical. So it goes like this, swells out. You can actually see Van Gogh attempting to get that nature of that Y on the inside. It's almost like he's thinking of the word Y. So as I move this back, I'll zoom out ever so slightly, go down ever so slightly, and we'll just name these parts again. So we went through the temple, got the start of the sideburns, which come in front of the bottom of the ear. We've got the helix comes up and then back down, and then transitions into the earlobe. So the rainbow of the helix comes up and back down into the earlobe. And then he's got the anti-helix on the inside. And I think that I think the hair just kind of comes in front of the tragus. So I don't even think you see the tragus unless that part is the tragus. It's hard to tell. We'd have to look at the painting in the end. It was a long explanation, but I mean, sometimes if you were to look at this, you'd look and you'd be like, oh, it's just hair, you know, like, but it's not, it's more. The head in this case is turned. So I'll try to decipher what's going on the left side, because you don't see the ear on that side. You're only seeing the ear on this side, even though we're seeing the head from straight forward. I don't know if you know, one of Van Gogh's like reputations is that he cut off part of his ear and then gave it to like a girlfriend or something. I actually don't know the real story, but for him to do a portrait of somebody that's missing an ear, it's kind of funny.
I think he actually gave it to his art teacher. His art teacher didn't want to teach him anymore because he was going crazy. So then
Is that true?
Yeah, he gave his ear to his art teacher.
Oh my gosh. I pray that does not happen to me. There's a at the art store, and like in really bad taste but kind of kitschy, they had erasers that were in the shape of ears. They called them Van Gogh erasers, and they were erasers that were life-sized ears. I did not buy one. If I bought one, it'd be like I was making fun of like a dear friend. Okay, so let's get to the other side. So we're going to come down the side, and then we're going to get the temples. You don't really see very much, and then you really are faced with a lot of sideburns. And then it goes up the side of the head before that hair gets tucked into the hat. And then there's the cheekbone, the suggestion of the cheekbone. Woo. He's looking kind of furry. Oh man, good stuff though. First, I'm gonna do like a quick self-reflection, and it looks like the pupils could go a little bit darker. Like when I look at when I look at what I've done so far, the pupils really have some kick, and you begin to like recognize that, like, my goodness, the pen is able to go so much darker. The value range of pens, black ink is just not even in the same ballpark as pencil. Pencil, the darkest you can get is a dark gray, but that's just how it goes. So I am trying to like get that same kick, but I'll never have the same punch that the ink is going to have. But I can still try. When I get into the side of the head here, I can see that there's some light tick marks, and then there's really some interesting stippling. When you stipple in small areas like this, you don't necessarily have to stipple in circles, but you should attempt to not, get your stipple dots too close to one another. You make like 5 stipple dots, then it's easy to stipple in the beginning because there's only open space, and then the more dots that accumulate, the more strategic you have to be about placing them and not overlapping too much. Cool. All right, I think we're ready for this nose. Hopefully, you all have started to get a little bit into the groove. just have to come down a little more. Oh. Come on. All right, that goes there. Wonder how far I can get. I think we'd be able to fit. I can cut off some of the. I can cut some off the top. Did I mention I got a new set of scissors? I'm gonna cut right, right above my eyebrows here, so I get more. And when it's time to do the hat, I'll just get another sheet of paper. Do it attach it. So we got more. So what I was really hoping for is to get the nose and the mouth on the same page. I'll drop it down even further. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. And then I can actually even zoom in a little bit too, as long as I stay put. As long as I stay put. All right, so I had to crop off those eyebrows up there. So don't confuse the folds here for the eyebrows. All right, so the nose is going to create kind of like this hourglass shape. And when I say hourglass, I mean that there's like the hourglass has a set of orb of a semicircle of glass on the top and the bottom, and then the center cuts in like this, and then you have like sand up here, and then it drops through the glass, and it makes a little pile on the bottom. Everybody knows about an hourglass, right? You've seen them in home goods. So the particles come down and they make this thing, and then when all the particles have disappeared from the top, an hour has gone by, something like that. So this little pinching concavity, the swells and the orbs of hourglasses are so voluptuous and so beautiful that, and they're voluminous, and then so and so that big counter, that the roundness of the top and the roundness of the bottom, you know, when they transition, it's really an aggressive, it's an aggressive concavity. So concavity, convexity, concavity, convexity, and that hourglass pinch. It's a form that's very useful. So when I refer to the hourglass, I'm not talking about the top and the bottom. I'm talking about that like pinching center. And watch how we do that here. So we're going to come down the middle passage, center of that, and then it's going to widen out as we transition into the ball of the nose. And let's use a diamond for the ball of the nose. That's the part that's not going to have light, but I think we'll find that it's the diamond's a good shape. All right, so they call it a bridge. You can also think about the that form. You ever seen breathe right strips? Breathe right strips go like this. So they tape down on either side of your nose, and they've got a metal beam in the middle. And that metal beam, the Band-Aid, the sticky portion attaches to your skin, and then the metal tries to open up, and it pulls out and actually increases the volume of your nasal passage. Now that has to go on the part that is cartilage and fleshiness, not on the bone part. I've seen people put them up too high. It's not going to do anything if you put it up too high. It's actually there to stretch your skin. So this middle part here is this transition. So where the side of the breathe right strip would go, that's what we're drawing here. Then it comes up and over. We're not going to make any marks, and then it's going to come down the other side. So we're shading like the side of the nose while leaving the slope of the nose, the top of the nose, light. Yeah. And I think hopefully you guys have heard me give the nostril toilet paper roll metaphor. And maybe I'll just do it right up here with the Van Gogh, the nose up here. So the nose itself, everyone thinks you have one nose. You actually have two noses, and they're kind of fused together. I know it's bizarre, but like you have two eyes, and then one mouth and one nose and two ears. You're like, how does that work? The nose is actually fused in the middle. So you have one nostril on one side, one nostril on the other. Where it's fused together, that's called the septum. So you can begin the nose by identifying that septum, and that septum, holds up the ball of the nose, which in our case we made a diamond. So you have a nostril flare on the right, nostril flare on the left. You want to think about the nostrils as toilet paper rolls. So the toilet paper roll is cardboard. This is the cardboard part. It's hollow. Then you have the thickness of the toilet paper, however much toilet paper you have on there. Sometimes it can be like a super big roll. You could use half of it, whatever. There's a thickness to how much toilet paper you have. And then you have the toilet paper squares, like the length of the roll. And this is perforated, and then it comes up this side, perforated here. You can have said politician, on the toilet paper or whatever, decorated. So inside of this toilet paper roll is where the you attach, you put it onto the dispenser or whatever. This is the nostril hole. The thickness is the underside of the lid, the underside of the nostril flare, and then you have the side. So let me just draw it for you with this new toilet paper kind of consciousness. So you have the septum, which is holding up, this is the middle. This is holding up the ball of the nose. And then the toilet paper, the cardboard toilet paper part is this, this bean shape in here. Then I'm getting the thickness of the toilet paper roll, and that leads us back into the septum. That toilet paper part is angled to the ground, so it's going to be in shadow. And then you're going to get the side of the toilet paper, which is the perforated part. And hopefully that all makes sense. And if it doesn't, I'll repeat it on this side where it's even more obvious. So the septum comes, the septum comes up. The whole nostril hole is a square instead of a cylindrical tube, but it doesn't matter. It's still a cavity. It's still an opening. And you get the thickness of that toilet paper, and it's in shadow. And then you get the side of the toilet paper roll, which actually would kind of hook around like that. And that's in shadow. Underside is in shadow. And that part of the toilet paper roll juts off of the head. I mean, if you look up here, I mean, the nostril flares, they really stick out. I mean, if anybody's ever gotten like a zit, like in that crack, I mean, like by, your nostril flare in your cheek, it's extremely painful, but it's because it's a gutter. You know what I mean? Like the tears and debris roll down and come down the side, and you actually see that there's a little gutter flare here. And it makes it so things don't go in your nose. You can actually see how the back, before the hair starts, you can actually see that the cheek comes down, from the side of the nose, comes down and goes behind the nostril flare. I mean, it's just an important thing to know that there's, an atmosphere behind that nostril flare, and so it goes behind and then comes out the other side. Cool. I may have gotten that a little bit big. I always draw noses big. I have a huge nose, and then I get excited about drawing them because I feel like I'm pretty good at them. And again, I maybe made it too large. If I should have made anything too small, it would have been the nose, because already my drawing is kind of out of control in terms of the scale. You can, mimic the marks that he's making. He shows side. I think the light is coming from the top right. Overall, it looks like the right side of his cheek here is lighter, and then he's getting some shadow. I don't think those are freckles. I really don't. I mean, they function sort of like freckles, but it's his type of mark making to represent shadow. Okay, So now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to keep running down the center. And we will get to these cheeks. We will get to all this other interesting stuff, but we've got to go all the way down to we have to get all the way down through the philtrum into the mouth, through the upper lip, lower lip, get into the chin down here, and then this neck hair. So once we get into the chin, then we're going to be able to go back up and link up back to our original cheekbones. That's why I wanted to, when I did the eyes and I went over and I was like, we got to get to the cheekbones so that we can then get to the chin and then link up the side of the face. You can actually see this, this really kind of handsome V shape that's being created by, the tones in the beard. And then we'll get to do all the hair on the beard, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're kind of almost through the hard anatomical part, and the rest is going to be kind of more structural with the hair and the hat and the clothes, not anatomical. Sometimes when you do the face, it's largely about what you know, and then even if you do know certain things, you're forced to leave them out. So I'll kind of show you what I mean as a teacher. Let's see, I can go up a little bit higher. I might not be able to, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see where the eyes are positioned. Okay, we'll keep those pupils in there. So what I'm saying is, like, as an artist, as a teacher, I'm all about keeping you from getting frustrated with doing art. And what makes people most frustrated with art is that they can always do the eyes, nose, and mouth, but what they forget is the spaces between. So like when we did the eyes, I really focused on the space between the eyes. And then we get to the nose. To go from the eyes to the nose, we had to go through the bridge of the nose. And then in order to get from the nose to the mouth, we have to go through the philtrum. And the philtrum is like this weird little mezzanine area. It's like where the upper mustache grows, and it's like where the right side of the upper mustache area meets in the center. And it makes, I'm going to make this sketch without the mustache. And then, like I said, then we will, put the mustache on top. So I just want to be able to, you to be able to see anatomically what the next thing to look for is. And, we did the septum. That's what, can get pierced. The philtrum is this little transitional zone that goes from the nose to the upper lip. And in his case, the upper lip is this kind of low sort of bean shape. So the part that you can see really clearly is where the upper lip meets the lower lip, and that's where the dark shadow is. Now, the upper lip has got some straight lines on here. So yes, I'm getting into the lips sooner than later, but it's just so we can get oriented. The space between the nose and this upper lip, I think it looks like a tie. So it starts narrow and it gets wider, and it's always, not always, but sometimes, most often, I'd say 99% of the time, it's got a depression. There's some people whose that middle section like sticks out, like Tom Brokaw. You see him, he talks with like this really flexed set of lips, and he pushes this little section, like pushes out, and it makes like an inverted, instead of being a depression, it's actually sticks out. It's so bizarre. Anyway, it's almost always this depression, and then right, and then you're going to get the this upper lip region. I'm going to make it light here, almost like it's like peach fuzz. There's like, and men and women all have hair on their upper lip. It's just a thing, because it's like it's a filter. It's there to like catch dust and debris that's coming down because of gravity. It's keeping that stuff from going into your mouth. Your nose is angled to the ground because we're erect, we stand tall, and we're actually kind of far away from the ground. And you got to smell for food and for truffles and for all kinds of amazing things. So the nose is actually turned downwards. So twofold, it's like shortest distance to the ground, but it's also you know, it's becomes an awning, a cover. You know, so when you breathe in and you breathe up, it's coming up, and it's not you know, breathing the debris that's coming down from the sky. All right. We'll get into the facial hair next. I just want you to see that this is how you get from the nose to the what's called Cupid's bow, actually, this little angled section of the upper lip. And then the darkest part where the lips touch are the, you know, the darkest part of the lips is where the upper lip and the lower lip meet. So we've got this bean on the upper part of the lower lip, and that's going to have a wing, which goes into the teardrop corner of the mouth. Wing into the teardrop corner of the mouth, and that whole upper plane, you know, if you look at your face from the side, this is the Van Gogh character seen from the side. You have your forehead, you have your brow, you have your nose, and then the underside of the nose. Then you have the septum, upper lip, corner of the mouth, lower lip, underneath the chin, and then the chin goes down this way. So this is the guy with no hair, but if you think about the light coming from up above, you get shadows underneath the brow ridge, you get shadows underneath the nose, you get shadow on the upper lip because it's angled down, and then you get this little shadow that's between the lip and the chin, and then the underside of the chin also goes in shadow. Now, of course, there's, you know, there's eyebrows up here. There's other factors that are coming into play, but just thinking about like the light areas at the top and the dark areas angled downwards, you can kind of, it's amazing how much dimension you can get for the face with just thinking about the planes that angle to the ground. And this portion right here, this upper lip portion, that's what I'm drawing here. The bean with the two wings. And then the lower lip is at the bottom, and he turns it, you know, really almost like just a curve. It's really kind of it's kind of like a nice little shape there, just like a flat curve. And you can show a little bit of the wrinkles, a little bit of the shade. Yeah, and then in situations like this, you're like, is he drawing wrinkles, or is he just trying to draw the shadow? You know, you don't really know. Whoa, there's a helicopter outside. I never thought I'd draw the Van Gogh's Postman with a clean shave. It's kind of funny. All right, I'm going to zoom out more. And this is where I might have to go side by side, which wouldn't be the end of the world. All right, party people. We got it on here. We'll do the left side, then we'll do the right side. Okay. I hope I did this right. All right, so back to this thing. This is kind of cool. This little underplane underneath that lip, that's what we're going to do next. So we're going to use, we're switching over now, ladies and gentlemen, into the world of facial hair. We've got the eyes, we've got the nose, we've got the ear, the one ear, we've got the lips. Everything else is either hair, jacket, or hat. So consider yourself in the clear. I mean, it's amazing, actually. All of that going into, you know, just those like 5 basic characteristics. The the concept that we're going to need to understand when we do the beard is that of a staircase. So the staircase has an up plane, and it's got a front plane, top, side, top, and then the side, and then the top, and then the side. And then you can do this for as long as you as long as you need. Top, side. And when you watch this, when we start from this lower lip, the lower lip, I'll put this little curve down here. That's what his beard is going to do. So this is now the mouth. So we're going to get shade for the lower, from the hair, and then it's going to get a little lighter. Then it's going to get heavier, and it's going to get lighter, and it's going to get heavier, and it's going to get lighter, and it's going to get heavier. It's going to be wild. Not really. It's not going to be that hard. But that's the idea, is this staircase thing. So the first step of the staircase is like his little smiling, bottom lip, the little curving lower lip, and then we're going to build the first front shaded plane with little slash marks that run, in that direction. Then we're going to come out lightly. And then we're going to go back yonder. And it's so funny that we're drawing hair, but we're thinking about stairs. There's the next one. This one feels like it's got a little bit of a roundness to it. I like that. So as I lay this next passage in, I will kind of go in this rounded curve. He's starting to look Amish to me. I go to this I go to the Dutch market, basically like once a week. There's this really wonderful cafe. It's called, I think it's called Lindy. I think it's Lindy's Cafe, or Linny. Sorry, Linny, not Lynn. Linny. It's in the back of the Dutch market all the way. There's like seating, they're all spaced out, and they have the best blueberry pancakes. I have to have mentioned that before. But really, you don't see like epic beards like this guy very often, unless unless you see the Amish. I mean, Amish men have these like really radical beards, very 19th century, very hipster, but it's their cultural norm, and and then it's just interesting. So as we like, I'm like associating this beard with something that's familiar, which I see all the time, and it's worth it. It's worth to go. It's worth it for the food, and it's worth it for the beards. You'll see lots of them. They could use that as a tagline. Come for the food, enjoy the beards. All right, enough of that. So we'll go light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, but it's on the darker side. Then we're going to finish it off with this dark note. So the section that's beneath what I'm doing here is the triangle of the shirt. Cool. That looks awesome. We're gonna get a this is gonna be fantastic. Okay, and I think I did do the left side correctly. So now we're gonna do this whole big left-hand triangle of this beard, and we're gonna break that down. So we did the center, which is good. Instead of doing the right side first, like we did the last time, we're gonna do the left side first because it fits in better with the zoom. So let's do that, the mustache. And we'll see how the mustache kind of flows out, and then we'll do the the beard that comes out the side, and it's going to follow the same format for the the staircase, except I think there's going to be, it's almost more like a babbling brook. It looks like there's more curves. All right, so let's go into this mustache, and the mustache is kind of more tubular, so you have to see where it starts below the nostril. And then we're going to build these kind of like curving forms of the hair that's rounded, and then it's going to start to angle down. The mustache is seen, I think, in like three parts. The part that's really underneath the nose Then there's the one that kind of angles down on the angle of the upper lip, and then there's this like burst. Um, I know that there's a type of mustache called a handlebar mustache where the wearer, waxes this long hair and it winds up becoming really curly. It's not, he could do the beard is so long that it could do that, but that's not happening. So we'll start with the true mustache that starts underneath the nose, and then we'll angle down the side, and actually cuts under with some like heavier marks on the base of that tube. And then the wispiness, which is kind of the fun part, just really goes wispy on the side, curling into that long wispy marks. Sweet. I think I misspoke a little bit earlier when I said we were done with the anatomy. Unfortunately, we're not done with the anatomy, but we can carve off the set. We have to separate the marks from the cheek from the marks from the hair. So we're gonna link up the side of the beard back up into kind of the side beard, and then back up into the sideburns. And then there's all this section of skin that's above the mustache on the left. And he really makes a clear distinction between this transition zone of where the skin turns into the hair, and then where the hair is drawn very, very heavy, almost like this grid. And then the marks on the face itself, they remind me of like his fields. They remind me of the these architectural moments, and they are created in clusters. Like there's a grid section here which has a lightness. There's an angled checkerboard here. There's kind of a fan shape marks, and we're because he doesn't use tone. So this would be an area where you would probably just tone it, but instead of toning it, he has to come up with a collection of marks that are almost random in their direction, but they can't look like hair. He has to make them look like anything but hair. So he needs the tone, but he doesn't want them to be confused with the hair. It's really fun. And again, like I never noticed this section of the drawing. It just kind of gets lost. It almost feels like it's part of the beard, but it's actually not. It's really part of the skin. And I had not seen it. Now, the way I cut my paper, it's a little unfortunate, but I think I'll be able to get most of it. So this little hardcore gridding, kind of comes in and describes like the kind of the undercut of that cheekbone. The cheekbone comes under here, and then this, the hair comes off the side. So it's a little bit wispy, and it makes the first set of wisps right here came from the mustache. Now the next set of wisps are coming out of that, kind of the underside of the cheekbone, and they meet and slightly overlap with the wisps from the mustache. So there's kind of like this conjunction of hair that comes from the mustache and then into the beard that's on the side of the head. It reminds me of when he would do these waves in his like seascapes. You'd have a cluster of waves that would meet with another cluster of waves, which would meet with another flow versus another crash. Cool. All right, so that's good. We've got if we think about the mouth, if you run a line over from the mouth, we have the mouth and above. So we've got the cheekbone marks, and then we've got the hair that's on the essentially the sideburns, you know, like the lamb chop sideburns. If we were to shave everything else off, that's what those would be. They would be the sideburns. And I'm going to modify my little move a little bit, but we're going to do convex, and then concave, convex, concave, convex, all the way to the point. So this is like where I was thinking it was a staircase, but I think it's more like waves. I think he was thinking about the ocean. There's this beautiful, beautiful painting of it's a kid wearing a hat, and in the hat he paints it the same way as he painted one of the Starry Night pictures. And you're like, oh, he's painting it. You think he's painting a hat, but he's actually painting a beautiful nocturnal night sky. And here you think he's painting a beard, and he's not. He's painting waves in the ocean. So let me show you what I mean. So we've got you know, kind of this dark. If you get anchored with this dark note defining the very bottom of the mustache, we kind of get anchored there. You have these concavities or convexities. Meaning they swell out, and then those crash into a concavity. And these marks, these are like bowl marks that angle up. Then there's another wave, you know, so the ebb and then the flow, ebb of the wave, and then the side plane, which is the flow of the wave. God, he literally draws a wave. So cool. I knew there. I mean, there's been a lot that's been interesting, but so far this is the one. This is the part that's blowing my mind. And then it looks as though this wave kind of curls up from the side. So you really see the side of the wave, and then it crashes. And then the same thing happens. You don't really see the space between, and it's another crashing wave. It's really cool. All right, so yeah, that's what we got. We got the waves crashing down one side. It'll be really exciting to see what the other side's going to look like. And then the bottom of the way that this arc here defines the bottom of the mustache, and then there's going to be a really heavy mark here which defines the bottom of the beard itself. So this is our final crash, and then we'll bring that darkness from that dark line kind of sectioning off and closing off the bottom of the beard. I might even roll all the way back up here. So now we can see the, you know, there's like the light platform. Actually, I'm going to make the lines go this way. There's like the light platform, and then you have the density of the side of the beard here. It's not a wave. You know, it doesn't. You know, these are the crashing waves. This almost feels like a stone or a rock or a block. And it transitions really nicely right up into the staircase that is the chin hair. That's groovy. The nice thing about people is that they're bilaterally symmetrical, and you know, if you look in the mirror, I mean, this guy may have. I mean, I'm loving the fact that this guy might have actually like made his beard up because he knew he was going to sit for a portrait, so he could have like maybe brushed it out. I've never had my beard this long before. But I mean, it's you know, those are like 6-8 inches. I mean, it must be just like your hair in your head where you have to brush it. All right, cool. Let me see if I can frame off his. I'm a little nervous about that. Maybe I can avoid having to. used to have a piece of cardboard here that was stiff enough. Here goes like that. This goes down. My gosh, the other side of the beard is completely different. Wowzers. All right, let's see if we can get anchored in here. Look at that. All right. Make sure this is straight for me and straight for you. All right. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it was so easy to decode the beard on the other side. And this one is it does look a little bit different. Yeah, so I guess we could start from the known and go into the unknown. Let's just like start. We've got the mustache that's going to come off the side. It comes almost like straight across, and the other one angled down really steeply, where the right side it levels off, and stays pretty stiff, and then it drops down at that corner, and then turns in. It's almost like a let me just sketch it over here. It's almost like what letter would that be? So it's like it goes across, and then it goes down, and then it goes out again. Is that like a backward? It's like a Z. It's a Z. So across and then down and then out again. Okay, so we've got the Z there. And then we're going to have this beautiful transition from the cheekbone into the upper lip that doesn't have hair on it. And then, this like shaded zone. So we had a gridding, a crisscross on the left, which I made, and it felt a little out of place. Here, there's no crisscross. It's just the hair defining the underside of that cheekbone. So that's good. All right, so let's just see if we can figure out underneath this nose. So we've got some, the nose looks like it throws a little bit of shadow. And then there's the top of the mustache. Then there's the front of the mustache. Just these vertical lines. Hopefully you've got a sense of like, if you only are allowed to make like one kind of line, like, well, not one kind of line, there's essentially the whole thing's made of straight lines. So you can only make straight lines, and sometimes they're short, sometimes they're long, sometimes they're light, sometimes they're dark. So doesn't give you very many options. So at least when you start to make your marks, you know that there's a very limited scheme. So we've got the top, which is at an angle, the front, which is vertical, and then we have the underside of that mustache, which is at a slight angle. It appears to be a little bit darker. Then we'll do the Z part, which gives us the corner of the mouth, which is darker. And then it really starts to flow here. It starts to get some, the length. And then it fans out at the base of the Z portion. Look at that go. It was same with the other side. I mean, the other side had the wispiness, So this has the wispiness as well. Okay, cool. I'm still a little bit scared of this like epic, triangle, this huge, massive triangle, and to devise a plan for like the various marks without losing, control in my mind. It's not going to be easy. So I'm admittedly procrastinating on that beard. So, but at the same time, I still have aspects of the face that have not been done. So we have the front of the cheeks here, and then we have the marks that are beginning to define the cheekbone, which is really kind of interesting. The high set cheekbones, the broad cheekbones, wide, kind of characteristic. Bigger, small eyes, big cheeks. And then you have the part of the upper lip, which is kind of the outside of the nostrils that, has an angle. It's this kind of this gutter that goes from I think it's called the nasal labial fold. And that turns into this aggressive dark marks of where basically the hair of the cheeks begin. And those lines are nice and dark, and they come from underneath that cheekbone. And that leads us up into I gave him that pierced ear. God, I hope he's not offended. Yeah, and that set of hair, which are, it's like kind of the sideburns leading into the side beard on those cheeks underneath that cheekbone. And then the hair gets wispy again on this side. Now, I'm a big fan. I had one of my students. He's in college, and he was talking about how it's important to like plan out the proportion of things before you get into like details, like see the whole, like see the mass. And I think I'm gonna like fall back on that little piece of advice before I start getting in there. And what I want to show you is this big. The only thing I can describe it at, it looks like the top of a candy corn, like a huge candy corn, maybe like even like a bullet. I'll try to sketch it out here. So there's the top plane, and then there's the side plane of it. So the top plane goes all the way from this ear. It comes all the way down, and then it goes into this section. So in terms of proportion, how big is that beard? Well, it makes that shape, and then it's got the side of this shape here. So of course, this underside of the plane, just like on the left side, the underside of the chin hair, and then this bottom of this beard. Maybe I'll just try for the easy answers first. I'm trying to shade the underside of that beard. Here, I'm wondering if they're happening in like the stepping stones is what I'm talking about. So this starts to flow here, and then it flows out. And then you get another step here where it starts to go down. And then that short step ends, and then it goes a large, broad step out. And then it curves down again. And then it comes out again. And then it goes under. And I really hope I can imagine the kind of like rain falling down, the side of a stream, where the water comes, starts at the source up here, and it flows down and then across and then down and then across and then down and then across and then down and then across. And it's so erratic. There's so many marks that I don't think you can screw it up. Because in the end, it's just got to look like a big bushy beard. And a lot of these forms, a lot of these systems of the marks that I'm trying to, the concepts of the structure, you know, a lot of that gets quieted down anyway. When I say quieted down, I mean like we know they're there because we've been analyzing it, but everybody else looks at it and they're like, it's just looks like a beard to me. And that's what you want. You want the people to like look at it and say, that's a beard. Artists like tend to be like, oh, that's the ocean, but it's also a beard. So making these associations and giving you kind of excuses to make marks and choose colors. And I know we don't really do colors because it's mostly a drawing class, but you know, we can draw with color pencils. I mean, we've done that, I guess. I keep giving you guys the hardest stuff, and I don't even mean to. I'm like, oh, whatever. It's just a Van Gogh portrait. Meanwhile, this is probably like graduate school level analysis. The At this stage, we've got a couple minutes left. There's this thing that I refer to, especially in painting, where you like punch your lights and you punch your darks. You kind of go through and you think, okay, where are there some highlights? And it doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be like a lot of paint. It's usually just some accents. And then here, because we're sketching this, we did like kind of a lot of work in a short amount of time, especially with the beard. That is, I'm trying to look at my beard and figure out where I can, you know, punch my darks. You can't add light necessarily. I mean, I guess you can erase some of the lighter moments, but I think where we're going to get the most amount of oomph is by pulling out some of those darker areas of the beard, kind of just like one more pass. And I'm seeing some dark notes underneath this lip. It even darkens that. Look at that. And to try to have gotten this far in 2 hours or an hour and a half and 90 minutes, it's like, I mean, what am I thinking? But I feel like I didn't go too fast. I tried, I hope, and I'm praying that when, I'm hoping at least that when, you know, when we do the share and I get to see what everybody's working on, you can, you know, that you know, the portraits look good. I was telling this, I mean, I say this, I think every week, but it's just the biggest difference between a Zoom class and a regular class is that I can keep an eye out on everybody's, you know, drawing, even from like 10, 12 feet away in the classroom. And I can modify my lesson based on, you know, what's working and then what's missing in the student drawings. And I think I just, Sebastian, I think I might put you in charge of that next week. If you don't mind reminding me to halfway through the class, just be like, let's have a midway show and tell. And then just so I can get an update on it. I kind of just I get into the zone. And I was looking at this, one of the best things you can do especially when you guys are drawing, you know, faces and people, in order to get the shoulders right, you relate it, you find the vector, like the angle of the shoulder, and then you carry the line all the way through and see where it hits. And so if you have the angle of the shoulder right and the starting point of the shoulder right, you should get it, you know, it should work. So what I did, in order to get the angle of this shoulder, it hits the base of the septum, base of the nose, and it angles out from there. So if I start here, that's where I can get it. And, you know, Van Gogh really generally he just doesn't disappoint. There was a little bit of a time when I first started learning art and I was like, oh, Van Gogh's so cliche. He's probably not even that good. And then I started looking into him to kind of like almost like discredit it, almost like to debunk. I wanted to like debunk Van Gogh because he was so cliched and everybody loved him. And there was all these like stories and mysteries around him. And then I was like, nope, he's that good. He's actually that good. He's that brilliant. He's the most well-read out of any of the impressionists or post-impressionists. He spoke I don't think I think he spoke 4 languages, but I think Lautrec spoke even more than that. He just was an actual smart dude, and a lot of the factors that came together that were unique to his time and place, like the Japanese prints being introduced to Europe, the revolution in color technology. So all these bright colors existed where they didn't exist before. His Dutch training, his affinity and knowledge of Northern European art, combined with French art, combined with kind of like a bohemian romanticism that led to his kind of like exiting Paris and moving way off into the country to study nature and study God. Like all these various factors came together to make just a very unusual body of work. And I just wish, in a way, I think he accomplished what he needed in his lifetime. But it really would have been nice that he lived an extra 40 years. I mean, he died at 37, 39, something like that. So he could have very easily had 40 more years of output. That would have been really neat to see. But I guess that's why we got to get to heaven, right? So you can see all those beautiful paintings. All right, let's stop it at 6:01. I'm going to stop the share. The title of this piece is Portrait of Joseph Roulin, 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 and you can Google it and you can find it. It's all public domain, and there's really high resolution images. That's the other wonderful thing about if you do wind up becoming a big Van Gogh fan like me, the material is very accessible. And I actually have some, yeah. Anybody want to show? Who wants to go? Let's see. Miss Foley, do you want to go first? Or Sebastian, you want to go first?
I'll go.
All right, let's see it. I'm going to pin you. So
Let me get, yeah. My pen ran out at one point, so I had to use a Sharpie right at the end there on his beard.
nice. Yes, look at that energy. So much energy. Great vibe. Nice. Thank you. I'm so glad. Okay, this is going to be successful. Sebastian, you want to go next? Oh, whoa, bro. That looks so cool. Let me see up close. Sweet. Yeah, and you kind of did what I did too. It looks like you made the nose a little bit larger, which is, how I showed you how to do it. And yeah, good. It looks like it'll get even better when you do the shoulders and add the hat and all that stuff. We probably won't continue this again next week. But you have enough information that you could, put a hat on and put that jacket on. All right. Does the moth woman want to go? Anybody else up for it? Maya, Estelle, Mr. Messick, Kaya. I can't see anybody on there, so you guys are gonna just have to. Estelle, let's see yours. Is everybody asleep?
I don't really want to share mine.
Okay. Let's see. Maya, do you want to show yours?
I didn't do that one, but I started working on this tree.
Whoa, it's so beautiful. Is that a tree from out the window or from imagination? What's that?
I just searched up trees.
Okay, so it was from a photo. I love that it's inside of a rectangle. Honestly, I wish I would have put my Van Gogh sketch in front of a rectangle as well. Okay, cool. Kaya, do you want to show yours?
I think I do.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll replace the pin. Oh my goodness gracious. Dang. All right. Well, I think you should definitely photograph it. And then if you want to keep working on it, I suggest you do, but photograph it now in case you ruin it. Because that thing is magnificent. Pop it in a frame. Share it with the world. There's this one Bible quote that I've been thinking about a lot because I was making a logo for my drawing business. I was gonna call it like Let Your Light Shine Studios. There's this line where they say you have to take no one lights a candle and puts it underneath a bushel. So like you put it out on the table so it lights up the whole house for everyone to see. And I've been using candles all winter. And I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And then but the line before that says in the Bible, it says, if you are the salt of the earth, and if you don't salt the earth, basically if you don't make good things, you don't make flavor, you don't make the world flavorful and wonderful for others, then you will be trampled upon. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a threat. So anyway, your art could be a way that you let your light shine. So make sure you share it with your family and people that you love, and and whatever your talents are, let them out and make the world better. It's going to be or else says the Bible. Anyway, that was super fun. Thanks for showing it, and if you want to email me those photos, I can see them up close. That'd be great. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you.